Welcome to yet another and fresh new episode of Behan Code with me, Filoni Kanani. And my guest on today's show is someone who does not need an introduction, but still, I would say, he's the co-founder of Nearby.com, an angel investor and a motivational speaker. His name is Ankur Warikoo, and above all the titles that he holds, my favorite title for him is that he's my favorite person for real, and I still am pinching my. So, a very warm welcome to you, Ankur. I'm so glad that we are doing this, and I still cannot believe that we are doing this.
Thank you so much. That's really, really kind of you. I am so glad that we're doing this myself, and I'm super happy to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
I have to tell you this. You're the first male guest on our show. So people have this thing about Behan Code that, they think that it's only a female-centric channel and it's all male bashing and it's a feminist channel. And, it's not anything like that. I am a girl on a simple mission to help women become independent. Now, you could be my partner in this mission only and only if you are somebody who can add value to lives of these women, right? So then it doesn't matter if you are a male or a female. But then I would receive so many messages of people asking me that, it's only a female channel and there are no male guests. So there was so much pressure and I was like, okay, so now if that's the case, I have to break this and I have to break this with a bang and I have to have somebody who is amazing and very deserving of being the very first male guest on the show. So who better than you?
No pressure at all. No pressure at all. No, I'm more than happy to be the first male guest on Behan Code. I love what you stand for, Filoni. I love what Behan Code stands for. I think it's a very, very important ideology, and I'm more than happy to support it in my small way. And couldn't be more excited and pressured by being the first male guest.
No, everybody loves you, so there's no pressure at all. I mean, you just type Ankur Warikoo in Google and there's so much about you. I mean, so yeah, okay. So, I wanted to, as an introduction, I didn't want to really share a lot about you because there's so much of information, but I honestly wanted to share that what happens when Ankur Warikoo says a yes. So I'll just say the backstory for people to have some context. I reached out to you and I really wasn't expecting a reply. I thought, okay, he will probably read it and then I'll be left unseen. So, and then you replied with a yes. And my response was, oh my God, you said a yes so soon. And I was thinking, wow, he said, I knew this was going to happen. I didn't doubt it for a minute that this is not going to happen. But I didn't know it would happen this soon, So I was very glad about it. But then when I told about this to my friends and family, their reactions were amazing and you have to listen to them. So my dad, he asked me about you first because my parents are not very internet savvy. So my dad is like, oh my God, wow, how can that guy say a yes to you? You're just starting out, So I think now you are set and now you should start charging brands to be on your show. And then why? Because Ankur Warikoo is on your show. I said, yeah, right. Of course. Okay, let's move on to the next reaction. I told my best friend about this, and his dad is pretty concerned about me. He's like, just tell Filoni to check if this is the real Ankur Warikoo or is it someone else. And finally, my friends and my peers, like, you've made it, girl. You made it in life. Ankur Warikoo said a yes, but why did he say yes to you? So I mean, please tell us. I've been dying to know. And I think more than me, others are dying to know, why did you say yes?
So, I love these reactions. And okay, I'll tell you why I said yes. So, there's one thing that most people don't think it's true, but it's actually true. I read every email, every comment, every reaction on every post that I make online. Everyone. Like that, I love doing that. It gives me a rush. It makes me feel I'm either doing something right or I have to fix something that isn't going right. I take the feedback of people sincerely and so on. But I don't respond to everyone because I possibly can't. And it's just humanly impossible for me to do that.
Right.
So my filter of response is extremely high. Like the bar to who I will respond to is very, very high. But there's one thing that I stand for, and you, Piloni, imbibed that, and I don't think you even recognize that you did that, but I should tell you this. Sometime back, I just began to notice you actively engaging with my content. You were responding to my tweets. You were adding very deliberate, thoughtful additions to it. It wasn't like, oh, this is awesome, this is great, you are good. Nothing which is platitude. Like you actually went in, dug deep into it. There were times when you challenged me. There were times when you added more to what I had to say. You gave a different perspective. And I will always remember that, not just with you, but with anyone who does that. And I think I stand for most people out there, whether they're influencers or celebrities or whatnot. If you very actively, in a disciplined fashion, engage with someone, today's social media environment and the internet in general has just made boundaries go invisible. I can reach out to anyone I want. Like I can speak to Elon Musk I want, Naval Ravikant I want, Amitabh Bachchan, Shah Rukh Khan if I want, anyone that I want. And there's nothing stopping me. So the only filter then is the value that you add, is how deep, how thoughtful, how deliberate, how meaningful you are in your conversation. So it's funny that I think it was last week or something, I recorded a really long 30-minute video on how to network. And this was one of the main things. It was like when you engage with people, there's no excuse not to. Yeah. Like just engage with their content. There's just so many people who are putting out content. Just engage with that in a deliberate fashion. It will stay. So you just stay. And that was it. Like your name is catchy. Your comments were very thoughtful. They were very regular. They were very disciplined in how frequently and how timely they came in. So you just stay. So when you wrote to me, I already knew of you. I didn't know of you, but I knew. Well, I didn't know about you, but I knew of you. Right? And that was it. So I genuinely didn't know that your name is Piloni. I didn't know who it was behind Behan Code. I was like, yeah, it's just someone who's having fun with what she does. And that's why it was just very simple for me to say yes, because in some way I already knew you.
Right. And add one more thing to this. It's really funny. So, this is one time I remember specifically on Twitter. So whenever I comment on your posts, I really don't expect a reply because, again, like you said, it's impossible for anybody to respond to every tweet that comes in. So there's this one poster that you put out, a screenshot of your photograph where you said YouTube thumbnails optimization is a thing. And I retweeted it saying that those were like, there was some serious video. I'll put that screenshot here. And you had these, serious reactions to it. And I retweeted it saying that my brain when I see my ex, and it was so funny for me. And I wasn't really thinking that you will even notice it. And you actually retweeted it. And it was so funny. I was so scandalized. I was like, oh my God, is he feeling bad about it? Because I was just doing it in good humor. And then I got like 100 followers. I was at 150 and now I have 250 followers on Twitter because you retweeted it. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy is such a sport. He really has a sense of humor. So you actually retweeted it. So I'll put that here. So that is one
that was fun.
Yeah, notable incident.
I do remember that. I distinctly remember that. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Super awesome.
Yeah. So coming to the topic of our conversation today, we're talking about failures today and we're talking about winning with failures. So, Ankur, we as the Indians are, whenever we see our kid failing in the exam, we curse him and we shame him that, oh my God, you are dumb. Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you didn't score well. And there is always that Sharma ji ka beta who is exceeding in all the aspects, right? So then with so much of shame, associated with failure, how are we expected to learn, especially in this environment? And then there is you who's coming up, who's like super successful, and he's talking about his failures openly without any guards. Like, from where did that come? What made you think that, oh my God, okay, this is the conversation that we need to have, and let's talk about this.
Yeah. So let me start with my interpretation of why we behave the way we do, because I think most problems, if not understood well, tend to just remain a problem, even if there is a seemingly visible solution in front of us. So the reality, Filoni, is before our generation, which is our parents, failure was almost equivalent to not surviving. It wasn't as if you could fail in life and still have a life to live. If you failed, you most likely were on the edge of survival throughout your life. If you failed to get a job, you most likely would die of poverty or you just remain poor. If you failed to get the socially desirable outcomes, whatever it was, whether it's a government job or it's an engineering degree or a doctor's degree or a lawyer degree or a CA, or even have a job in the first place, or any of those social constructs that we today take at face value, it was just a very, very hard time. We're an extremely young country. We're still very poor. And that means that for the longest time, we continue to fight for survival. And to some extent, we still do. We are very privileged. The readers of this podcast are very privileged. But you just have to peep out the window to see that survival is still a thing. And failure thus becomes really large. So in Western economies, if you fail, that just means you learned, right? So it's a very fashionable thing to say, oh, you fail and you learn. Here, when you fail, you get fucked. And that's it, khatam. Tumhari zindagi khatam hai, tum kuch nahi kar sakte. Like literally, you'll have to pull yourself back, and the chances are you will not be able to do that.
Very true.
So that's where we come from. So it's very natural, and I empathize a lot with our parents who were raised in that setup where it was just very, very, very hard to survive. It was very hard to change orbits. It was very hard to go from earning X to earning 2X, from not having your house to having your house, to living on rent or driving or riding a bicycle to owning a car or even a bike or moving to your own place, whatever. Now, you and I have it much easier. Right? Opportunities are endless. You are actually speaking virtually to someone that you haven't met ever. There's great conversation. You're connecting with people all across the world. You can easily make this into a profession. If you're good at it and you're disciplined with it, you can convert that into a money-making thing. And you're already sitting on so much privilege that you know you're never going to die of poverty or hunger. Your goal in life is not to survive. Your goal in life is to get to the next orbit and the next orbit. Right. But it's not like कि कल मेरे पास खाने के लिए पैसे नहीं होंगे या कल मेरे पास खाने के लिए खाना नहीं होगा, पहनने के लिए कपड़े नहीं. We're never going to be that. So that's why failure has this really big impact in our society. And I think it's just a matter of time. In 1 or 2 generations, maybe in about 40, 50 years, we will get out of this in a way that we won't even remember. Like our kids and our kids or whoever will be like, what is failure? Failure is cool. Just the way that in the US or anywhere else, they look at failure as it's being cool, as a stepping stone.
As casually as others do.
Exactly. Now, I really don't know, and you asked me a really good question. Where did my outlook towards failure come from? Because it's not that I come from a family which embraced failure. I saw being raised, us not having any money. We were in extreme financial crisis for the longest time during my growing up years. We never had money. All the way up to me going to the US for my PhD, we never had money. And it's funny that the first time we actually saw surplus money was through the stipend that I used to earn as a student, only because it was in dollars. That was the first time we actually had surplus money in our family. Before that, we never had enough money. There was no saving, nothing whatsoever. And by all logical explanations, I should have grown up becoming very risk averse. And I should have been a very risk averse individual. But I genuinely, hand on heart, do not know why I am the way I am. I just like and love the way I am. And I like that my attitude towards risk, towards failure, towards success is that I define it for myself. I don't let the world define it for me. But I struggle to articulate it for myself. Where did I get it from?
Wow. So, Ankur, given the fact that you used to be, living hand to mouth, so then failure becomes a very big risk to take, right? I mean, you cannot take, so you don't have that kind of risk appetite. So, given that situation, you still have taken risks, and I'm sure that you've not succeeded at everything you do. Nobody does. So then, what would you say? Why does failure become very important? That despite of that, survival wala thing, you are ready to take that risk. What makes failure that important?
I think the way that I see it, Filoni, is failure for me or risk for me is what I call an option. And here's what I mean by that. The downside is capped, but the upside is unlimited. Let me state an example. If I were to say, you know what, after my business school, I'm going to start up and not sit for placements. And everyone in my class will be like, tu gada. Why are you taking so much of risk? You're not come to a business school. I didn't do that, by the way, but I'm just suggesting if that were the mindset of someone. Now look at what the downside is. The downside is that your startup will not work out and you will have to go back to a job. That's the downside. Like, it's capped. The downside is not that you will get killed. The downside is not that you will lose your life. The downside is not that people will hate you. The downside is not that you will not have any friends anymore, or you will not have any parents, or you will not have a family. Nothing of that sort. Right? It's not war. The downside is that you will go back to a job. You already have an MBA. You're smart, you're capable, you're hardworking, you're high intent. So you can always get a job. So the downside is just purely financial, which in our head becomes a really big thing. But it's not social, it's not emotional as such, at least not to the extent. But look at the upside. The upside is if your startup does work, it can make you money, it can make you extremely happy, it can give you societal respect, it can give you recognition that you never got before, it can place you on the world map, it can make you a billionaire, it can get you awards, it can get you into newer opportunities, it can be anything that you can wish it. So when I look at risk, I almost always look at what's the downside, to what extent is it capped, and what's the upside, and to what extent is it infinite. And almost all the risks then that I have to take, except if it's a risk where the downside could be losing my life, then I'm like, no, maybe not. But if the risk is financial, if the risk is physical, if the risk is you go to the gym every day, like, what's the downside? The downside is your body will hurt for a day, for an hour. What's the upside? You will have a fucking healthy life. You'll live maybe for 5 years more. You will look great. People will admire you. They will look at you as inspiration. You will feel good about yourself. That's like insane upside. But it's amazing how many people, because the downside is so real and so vivid, they just just look at it and they're like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to put my heart, my mind, my soul through this agony. क्योंकि अगर ये हो गया तो दुनिया त्राही हो जाएगी. But I always look at the upside. So for me, risk is a state of mind. There is no barometer. There is no measurement scale. There is nothing that can quantify risk. It's personal. And I think if one gets to that habit of evaluating and looking at risk, then failure naturally becomes a very digestible.
So what you do is you put failure on one end and the possibility of success on the other. And the possibility of getting successful is always heavier. So you choose that. Wow. That's a beautiful perspective.
And even if the probability is really low, which it will be most likely, the probability is very low. But even with that very small probability, but the massive upside, it still comes back with a fairly big number.
So, Ankur, I saw that actually makes me curious that I saw this tweet of yours where you specifically mentioned that when you were thinking of leaving your PhD and coming back to India, you made a list of legit businesses that you would want to do. So, what was the thought process behind that? That was really interesting. So, like a few of those businesses are in existence today. We see those, and I'll put that list on the screen for people to see. So, what was your thought process behind that?
It was I think and again, I can't explain why, but I've always been a very enterprising kid. I somehow loved the excitement of creating something out of nothing. So I remember, for instance, in I think the 5th or the 6th standard, उस time पे WWF was a rage.
Yes, those cards, right?
Yeah, those trump cards. Right?
Yes.
Oh, Yokozuna, Undertaker,
Yes.
Hulk Hogan, some random. I never watched.
Yes.
We never had cable while growing up, so I had no idea. But I could clearly see that people were totally in it, absolutely. And one day, there is this friend of mine from school. He comes with these WWF stickers, which you can paste on notebooks or textbooks or something. And it's a strip. It's a page which has 10 stickers on it. And it's for like $5 or something. So I like, oh, that's cool. And stickers are just very exciting in the childhood. So I like, chalo, ek le lo. So I bought one for $5, not knowing who they are and whatnot. Then I go to my bus to go back home. And I'm showing these stickers to people in the bus. And there's this kid that comes in and says, oh, these are really cool. How much is this for? And I said, it's for $5. And he says, great, I will buy all 10. And he gives me $50.
Wow.
Because he thinks it's 5 rupees per sticker.
Right.
And I'm like, that is brilliant. So the next day I come back from school and I tell my friend who I bought it from, like, I need 10 sheets. And then I just went back to bus and just sold them for $50. And it just that business lasted for an entire day before someone came and said, "Yeah, ये Lajpat Nagar में तो ₹5 का बिक रहा था पूरी sheet तो what is it?" So that's when I knew that I had to stop because the arbitrage had gone off. But I distinctly remember these examples. I remember in college, I presented my dad a business plan for a chain of Bantawalas. I don't know if you know what Bantawalas is, like that lemon soda drink.
Yes, that Goti soda.
Which has exactly, Goti soda as they call it, which has that marble in it.
Yes, they have a marble ball in it.
So I actually presented a business plan to my dad, creating a chain of Bantawalas, where the guys will be wearing gloves and it will be like in disposable cups and straws because it has to be all clean and blah blah blah. So we're like, oh, today it sells for like 5 rupees and I can maybe sell it for 8 rupees because it's clean, it doesn't have anyone touching it hand and so on. Of course, my dad dismissed it instantly. But I distinctly remember showing him a plan which was making some insane amount, like crores mein paise chale gaye the. I would be making crore rupees running these rallies all across Delhi and so on. So I think I had it always.
Yeah.
And it was just the joy of making something. It wasn't the joy of running a dhanda or a business, but it was just the joy of imagining something coming out of nothing.
Wow. So in hindsight, if you see all the dots connect.
I think they do. Right? As Steve Jobs said, looking back, all the dots connect. Everything just seems wonderfully explained as if this is the way it was. So I think that is that's just obvious for almost every life.
Lovely. So, Ankur, let's move on to the next question that I have for you. What is this failure resume, and why does everybody need to build one?
That's a great question. So this was, I think, 2016. I came across a professor at NYU named Johannes Haashofer, who wrote a blog post saying that when you think of a resume, it's like this chest-thumping document. मैंने जिंदगी में ये किया है, मैंने जिंदगी में ये किया है, you know, I am this and that, best rated, most voted, most popular.
You won this award, that award, all your achievements.
Everything. Yeah. And you go back like literally eternity. Class 5 May, I won this elocution contest, singing whatever, Mary Had a Little Lamb. So whatever. And he said, clearly everyone's gone through a lot of failures. So why don't we ever talk about failures? Because most learning comes from failures. So he wrote what I would argue we call the world's first failure resume. And it was great. It was like, no, he's an academic. So the number of times he had not got a publication through, or the number of interviews he had not made it to at universities, whatnot. And that really felt fascinating to me, because I was like, man, this is something no one talks about in India. We should talk about this so much more, because the truth is every successful individual that we know of has failed. And if only they came forward and expressed that, it would, one, give people a lot more confidence in what they are doing and what they're going through. Two, it will hopefully help them reflect on how these failures have helped them get to the point that they are in life, which I'm sure they already do to some extent. So I decided to write my own failure. And back then, I'd become a wonderful failure in so many grounds, whether it was not making it to the IITs, not making it to the IIMs, not making it to the companies I sat for post my business school placements, not getting funding from so many people, so on and so forth, personal, professional, etc. And I posted that, not expecting anything, honestly. It was like, let's just see. So I posted it on my blog, which I'd been writing for several years. And somehow people just picked it up. It just became a thing of its own. And the next thing, publications are picking it up and they're talking about it and so on. And I think the most heartwarming thing, Filoni, was getting so many emails from people saying that this made me feel like I'm not a failure. This made me feel like I haven't lost it all. This genuinely gave me so much courage, so much strength to go through whatever is it that I'm going through. And frankly, I didn't nearly expect it to touch such a chord with people, but it did, and I'm glad. And that's why, to the question you asked, I feel that one, and I tweeted about it yesterday, which was, just because it seems easy does not mean it's not heavy.
Yeah, some
everyone's
people carry
carrying a heavy load.
Yeah, some carry it better than others.
Everyone's carrying a heavy load.
Very true.
But if you were to just share what that heavy load is, if you were to share what you've gone through to get to this point, you will genuinely help so many people. So many people.
That's very true. When we open up and when we are vulnerable, we feel that most times people will take advantage of it. But it's not always like that, because there are a lot of people who are going through stuff that you've possibly gone through or you're going through. And they feel that they have this community, and in turn, they also open up and they don't attack you for it. So that's a very wonderful thing. So, Ankur, tell me, how do we build a failure resume if we want to start out? Like, I made my failure resume this morning, but I made a mistake, right? So, would you share certain points that we must keep in mind? Because I didn't realize that I was being defensive about my failures. I thought I was like, yeah, I'm cool. I can talk about failures. And it turns out that no, I'm making all my failures. इसकी वजह से ये तो हो गया ना मेरा. So ये तो सही हुआ.
Exactly.
that is a
Exactly.
mistake that I made. So what are the few points that we
And
should keep in mind?
I think the only thing that you mentioned, Filoni, which is when you're making the failure resume, number one, it takes intense courage to do that. So my heartfelt congratulations to you for doing it. It was just so beautiful. It was vulnerability at its best. It was absolute pure honesty. So it just felt really nice. And someone like me, I just draw a lot towards people if they are open with all the shit that they've gone through in addition to how cool they are. So the only remark that I made, which you've received very well, and thank you for that, is when you're writing a failure resume, it has to be your failure resume. It cannot be disguised as a failure resume. It cannot be, I failed in IIT, but despite that, I am a VP in an investment bank. No, it is about your failure. It just stops at that. It just stops at that, because then you allow people to navigate through whatever is their interpretation of your world. You're not giving them or imposing your interpretation on them. So a lot of people will read your failure resume and you're like, you know what, despite all of this, she looks happy. Some people will say, you know what, despite all of this, she's running a podcast. Some people will say, you know what, despite all of this, she has the courage to still do something fresh and new from scratch. Someone will say, despite all of this, she still has the courage to do a side gig or to make this into her life. Someone will say, you know, despite all of this, she still had the courage to write about it. Whatever is their definition or their interpretation of your success, let that be theirs. You shouldn't impose it. And that's the only thing that I say when I talk about the failure resume.
Wow. That brings me to, generally, when I talk to people, I ask them, oh, you know, what's your favorite high point of your career? And, you know, but now that we're discussing failures, and I know that you are somebody who will take it in a positive way, I'd like to ask you, what have been two of your favorite failures? Like the points where you're like, I don't think I'm going to make through this. And we all know that where you are, so we don't need that validation right now. We need to know that what was the shittiest shit that you went through?
I think the one that always has stayed with me and continues to be the toughest period that I went through, and in a period where I genuinely was clueless and I didn't know what was happening to me, and I was lacking strength, I was lacking courage, was we had just this is 2016. We had raised a brilliant round from Sequoia, which is the world's most admired venture capital firm, in 2015. We had pulled off a buyout of Groupon India's business and made it into Nearby. We'd literally done everything classically perfect. It was just the dream deal of all. And we had so much of money, and I was so naive and so stupid and so just lacking judgment at that point of time that we went on this spending spree. We wasted a lot of that money, and the market also turned at this point of time. So I thought we'll be able to raise a lot of money, but we weren't able to do it. That was completely our fault and nothing to do with the market. So in March of 2016, we had to lay off about 80 people. And I had never laid off people. I had fired them because of performance. I'd fired them on ethical grounds, but I'd never asked someone to leave for no fault of theirs. And it just felt crushing. I was absolutely lost. It was my worst time as a leader. All I could do is just think about all those individuals and how it wasn't their fault and how it was entirely mine. And I just didn't know what I could do to help them. Like everything that I did, which was, okay, we'll give them a severance package, we'll give them outplacement services and all that. It just seemed so trivial and seemed so inadequate to all that they would be going through emotionally, and to have really smart people being laid off, and for them to have self-doubt, for them to have these moments of, was it because of something that I did? Was I not good enough? Why has some people stayed? Why have I been asked to? Like all of those questions that come in. So it was just a really bad time. And, yeah, it was classically, as far as I can remember, the toughest thing that I've gone through.
Okay. So if I can add to this, there is a point about me that you do not know. I used to work with one of your competitors, and I started as a content writer, and then 6 months into the job, I had done anything and everything. Like I took up that job only to go to Dubai. I loved Dubai. I wanted to see the Burj Khalifa. So my goal for that job was just to earn enough money that I take a trip to Dubai. So I did that, and when I returned, I was a different person altogether. I started thinking about growth in terms of jobs. So there was nothing there in terms of growth for me. So, and I didn't want to leave the company because it was a wonderful company to be in, to be working with, you know. And my boss was amazing. People were amazing. So I didn't want to leave. So I spoke to my CEO and he told me, you know what, we've seen you perform and we know whatever function you take up, you're going to do that really well. So I moved to HR and I know about what you just said. So if that makes you feel any better, those people got absorbed. There were certain recruiters who were, you know, hiring the best of your talent that got laid off. So
No,
I mean,
I'm
you
glad.
don't
Thank you so
know
much.
these things, yeah. As an outsider, you don't know
No,
how people look at you and then what happens to. So if that makes you feel any better, so that was what was happening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Wow. So, Ankur, now that we've spoken about the failure resume and your favorite failure, uh, give us one action item to do. Like, what is the immediate next step that we can do to embrace failure?
It's the way you ask this question, you make it sound very simple, and I wish it was. Uh, there is no immediate shortcut playbook ki ye kar do, ye ho jayega, ye kar do, ye ho jayega. But if I were to answer this question nonetheless, I think the biggest thing that I speak about when it comes to failure, Filoni, is your definition of failure should be yours. It should not be the world's. What I mean by that is, if you genuinely dig deep, you will realize that every failure that you consider failure is just the world's definition of failure imposed on you. तुम इंजीनियर नहीं बने तो तुम फेलियर हो, तुम्हारे नंबर नहीं आए तुम फेलियर हो, you didn't have a job by 25, you're a failure, you were not married by 30, you're a failure, you didn't have kids by 35, you're a failure, you don't have a house, you're a failure, you haven't done this, you're a failure, you haven't done that, you're a failure. It's just crowdsourced definitions which are very comfortably imposed on all of us. And we, in all our naivety and our innocence, absorb them and say, ye mera failure. I have failed. But the truth is, you haven't ever asked yourself, what is failure for you? What is failure for you? And that is a personal journey. It is a personal journey. Like today, I know that failure for me is knowing all that I know, experiencing all that I've experienced, and yet not being able to influence others in a way that they could see what I have seen. That is my failure. That is what I would call failure. It is not that I will die, whether with this bank balance or that. Who cares? Like whether I will have this or that. I'm extremely privileged. I have a wonderful, comfortable life. And even if that were to go away, I know where I've come from to adjust. And I know what I can do and I'm capable of. But if I were to lose the will or the ability to share everything that I have seen in my life in a hope that I can influence others to see it that way, and then form their own view of how they want to live life, I think I'll be a failure. And that's just my definition.
Right.
So, but the same way, you have yours, and you've gone through your life, and you've seen so much.
Right.
And you have now come to believe what back then felt like failure, but was it? And you have your own definition of failure now. And that I think is honestly the only thing that people need to spend time on. It's really hard to do because I'm almost asking you to have an out-of-body experience.
Right.
I'm saying dissociate from your own self and now look outside yourself to see what is your failure. बहुत बहुत मुश्किल है. But if someone does it, I think they remain thankful for the rest of their lives.
That's really very profound, and that's very true. Like, imagine if I have a job and I'm not happy about it. It pays me, whatever I want. And on the outside, people see, okay, wow, she's got a brilliant job. She's got a house. She's got this. She's got that. But if I'm not happy, I think that I'm a failure, right? So it is me who has to define my own failures, my definition of failure, right? Wow, that is really profound. Okay, so as a final question that I have for you is that we are normal people. We still scare of failure. We are ashamed to start our own business. And, we think that, oh, auntie kya bolegi? Oh, YouTube pe main aisi dikhungi. I cannot be a podcaster because I don't fit the definition of beauty set by others. And, I don't know if my voice is good enough to, have a podcast. I don't know. So what would you say to people like us who have these inhibitions? What are those 3 tips that you would want to give us that will make us jumpstart our business?
I think the instead of 3, I'll just give 1. And I think that's the most powerful one, which is these inhibitions are understandable. These fears, these insecurities, they're very understandable. And don't shy away from expressing them. Don't shy away from feeling them. Definitely don't wish them. The best way to encounter them or to embrace them is to actually start with no pressure and no purpose. And it almost sounds counterintuitive, but do that. Start with no goal, no target, nothing whatsoever. So it's like, if I want to become a podcaster today, start with, I don't want to become a podcaster. I have actually no ambitions of becoming a podcaster, but here's what I will do. I will just go ahead and start recording my own voice. Forget someone else. I will every day pretend that I'm a radio jockey or anyone, and I will just record my own thoughts, not for anyone's consumption, but just for mine. And I will do this for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, till the time I'm actually comfortable with even doing it. When I do that, then I will start interviewing or having a conversation with my friends and family. And I will do that again with no purpose, nothing whatsoever. None of this has gone out. None of this is public. None of this is meant as I am a podcaster on LinkedIn or anything like that. This is just me, maybe with my current job. I'm doing everything as per what society wants me to do, but rato ko I become Batman and I have this night role as a podcaster where I'm just speaking to myself and recording it. Exactly. And you do that. What will happen is, and this is the power in what lies between our ears. Our brain is just the best possible or to get us habituated to do whatever we do on a daily basis. It thrives on minimizing the energy we spend on doing tasks. And that's why whenever we pick something new, it sounds like a big thing because our brain's telling us, oh my God, I have to pull myself out and do this for the first time and suck so much of my energy because I don't know how it will be. But if you exercise every day, if you speak every day, if you write every day, if you drive every day, if you do something every day, your brain is like, I can do it in my sleep. I know how to do it. I don't have to think twice about it. I know exactly how to optimize the bare minimum energy required to get this done. That's what's going to happen to you in a short period of time, and you'll be left amazed. So start not with the purpose and with the aim and the expectation. Start with the genuine joy of doing this every day. I say this quite often. Startups don't fail because they fail. Startups fail because they fail to live up to the expectations you set for yourself. That's the only reason they fail. If you are able to, as a podcaster, churn out 5, 10 podcast episodes every 3 months, even every year, you will call yourself a failure only because you said you should be doing 50.
Right.
But if you were like, I don't care, I'll just do it for the joy of it, for the sake of creating it, there will be always a community that will listen to you, that will enjoy what you do. But only if you expected, those numbers will be running into millions, maybe you'll fail yourself. But if you just said, I don't care what those numbers are, I genuinely want to create a community which loves what I do, then maybe you'll never be unhappy and your startup is already a success.
I love every word of the answer, like every single word, and that's been so true for me also. I booked this handle for 3 years and I didn't have the courage to start because I thought, oh, when so people are going to ridicule me, it's really stupid, it's really this, it's really that. And then finally, when the lockdown started and I attended that live session of yours where again you were discussing about these failures, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I'm not going to look at numbers or I'm not going to see what people are going to say about this. I don't care. I'm going to do this because I want to do this. And I have really got nothing better to do in life right now. I'm locked down in my own house. I don't have a job. And I have this passion since the last 3 years and I'm not pursuing it. Just let me do it. And for the next 6 months, I'm not going to let the numbers bother me. So, and I started off. And I could actually relate to every single word that you said. It got me started. And here I am interviewing the dream person from my wish list. So, wow, this has been such an enriching session. This is like one-to-one mentoring session for me, more than a podcast episode, to be honest. So thank you so very much, Ankur, for taking out the time and doing this. I really appreciate, this. This is really nice. Thank you.
It's been a joy. Thank you so much. Thank you for very deep, well-meaning questions. I love responding to them. It gives me a chance to just reaffirm all the things that I know. And I know that when I'm not being consistent, then I'm not nearly prepared in my own head. So thank you for challenging me and asking all those thought-provoking questions. It was a joy to be on this episode.
Thank you, Ankur.